Welcome to Discover a New Future, a show geared at empowering women to be the best versions of themselves. Today, I'm here with my co-host,
Desiree Kinney.
and I'm Faith Saunders. Our show today is going to be around how to help women, in particular, address the issue of finances, especially as it pertains to divorce, becoming widowed. That's one of the things that we do not want to talk about, death, but it's inevitable. That's one thing that happens in all of our lives. So we have to prepare for it. So how can we prepare to be for those situations when that does happen? And our guest today is Avani Ramnani. I'm right?
Yes, absolutely.
Cha-ching!
And Avani is the Director of Financial Planning and Wealth Management at Francis Financial, a fee-only boutique wealth management and financial planning firm that's dedicated to working with women who have been through a divorce, who have lost a spouse, or have had a huge inheritance. I wish one day maybe I'll be your client.
That would be lovely.
I don't know where that would be coming from, but yeah. So in terms of the inheritance, that is. She received the 2015 Smart CEO Executive Management Award and has been quoted on CNBC, Wall Street, etc. She's the recipient of Women's Choice Award for Financial Advisors and Firms. That was in 2014. So I really want to welcome you. Very impressive bio, Avni. And I wish I could read everything for our viewers to hear. But again, thank you so much for being on our show today, because this is a topic that I think is critical for us to talk about, especially divorce and the passing of a spouse is something that nobody wants to talk about because it's not very happy circumstance. But before we begin, I'd like to kind of share some statistics. Everyone knows I'm big on statistics. Studies shows that about 20% of women fall into poverty as a result of divorce.
Yes, Faith, a good point. And they found that about 30% of women who own a home and have children at home will lose their home when they get divorced. So very astounding figures there.
And, going to the widows, according to the New York Life study, they found that 68% of widows report significant life change, with financial concerns rising to the top of the list. The burden of those changes amounts to years of undue hardship after their loss. So it's very difficult going through a loss, and then not even financially, you don't even know where you stand. And one of the other things that I read was here's a wish list for individuals who have gone down that path. Some of the things that they have said, statements. I wish we had some or more life insurance on my spouse.
That's 47% of people.
Yeah,
correct?
47% of people say that. 42% say, I wish we had saved more. And we're going to be talking about these two big things as we go forward. So before we actually do that, I'd like to hear from you. This is based on your bio. It's obvious that you're really passionate about the work that you do. So my question to you is, why finances? You could do so many other things in this world, but you chose to do this work. Why?
So when I was a little girl, pardon me, when I was a little girl, my father had a great job, very steady, good financial footing. The family was financially very stable. And then he went and said, okay, I want to start my own business. So as we all know, when you start something on your own, the first few years can be really difficult. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened with my family. There were some tough financial times. But as a little girl, what I saw was my mother taking charge. Not only did she take charge of the family's finances, she went ahead and took charge of the business's finances as well. Mm-hmm. So she was always in control, always very knowledgeable about what was going on. And that helped her reduce some of the anxiety that comes from not knowing what's going on. And it happened for the first few years, and then things, of course, became better again, and the financials were much more stable. But I do remember that going into high school, my mother told me that if I had control over the finances in my life, I would never worry about anything else, because everything else becomes so much easier to deal with once you know what your financial situation is. So I took that to heart, and I practiced being in control of my finances since I was in seventh or eighth grade.
Wow.
Wow.
So you're an expert now. Real
She wasn't
expert.
thinking about playing with her friends. She was thinking about managing her money. That's impressive.
And no, and my mother still takes care of the business finances and family finances, so she's a tremendous inspiration to me. And I push the women around me in my life to do the same, to at least be aware of what's going on, to at least feel like you have a good grip on yours and your family's finances. And it's such a pleasure to work with women, because the changes that you help them make not only transform their life, their attitude towards money, but also transforms the life of the entire family. And that's just such a far reaching impact. And I feel honored and humbled to be able to make such a difference to someone's life.
Wow, I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I just think this is very interesting. Your inspiration was your mother being that figure to help you learn how to manage your money. This is actually, I would say, probably statistically rare. So, I think it's very admirable that you had that role model, because what we're talking today about is women who don't have that control over their finances, or maybe expect for their spouses to kind of carry that weight. And when something happens, which is the point of our show, and there are those major life changes, what does a woman do? So we're definitely interested in learning more and having a deeper dive into what do you suggest in your line of work, and how do you help these women who are in transition, which goes into the next question, right?
And the next question, again, for me, I think what just came to mind is, why is it, because as Desiree just mentioned, your mom is a unique gem in terms of the financial, in many aspects, but especially around handling finances. So what is it about finances why women shun that particular topic?
Yeah, there are so many challenges that women face. One of the biggest things is that women tend to earn less than men in the same line of work, same type of work. So women tend to make about 20% less than their male counterparts. And it's improving, but it's not quite there yet. So they feel that stress about making less money and having the same expenses, if not more. So, and the other thing that adds to this complexity is that life is so busy. A woman is usually taking care of her family's medical needs, well-being, health, making sure the children's education is on track. If she has a career, then making sure her career is progressing well.
Right.
They have so many different things that they're focusing on, and finances do need a lot of detail and attention. And so they find it really easy to just hand that off to their spouse so that they don't have to deal with another thing that involves a lot of detail. But I feel like that's a misstep. Even if they don't handle the nitty gritties, it's really important to be aware of what's going on, know what your assets are, know what your expenses are, know what the income coming in is. Just those things are extremely important. Something else that women don't think about is retirement planning.
Yes.
It's just, women tend to live a lot longer than men do. And so they have to prepare for more years in retirement. And they need to start saving much earlier than men might need to start saving. So they need to think about all these things. Women, just a common tendency we've seen is for women to put themselves last, bottom of the list of priorities. And they have this guilt around saving money for themselves while they could be using it for their family.
Right.
So I think, just that sort of attitude in itself is a huge challenge.
So I definitely, and actually I was going to get at that, the emotional reason women have challenges saving. And so what would you recommend, or what have you recommended to women that face challenges saving or aren't thinking about retirement? And furthermore, the unexpected things that happen in life.
Right, the unexpected things. Those, if you're not prepared for the unexpected, those can wreak havoc in your financial situation. I think one of the most important things to do is to build an emergency reserve.
Yes.
Now, there are different things that people recommend, and different situations call for different levels of emergency reserve. But if you have a good understanding on what your monthly expenses are, I recommend having an emergency reserve of between 3 months worth of expenses and 6 months worth of expenses. And depending on your level of comfort, you'll fall anywhere between. If I would say, if it's a couple trying to get prepared for an emergency, having a 3 months reserve is okay because there are two incomes coming in and so on and so forth. But if you're a single person depending on a very limited income, I would say go for the 6 month end of the range, because that gives you a lot more time to get your second, fallback options in line, get through the emergency without feeling stressed, and make sure you plan for the years ahead. So having that emergency reserve is extremely crucial. Next, next thing I would say is know your income and expenses. A lot of people, their paychecks get deposited in the bank, and they don't know exactly how much they earn every month. Also, what the expenses are, where the money is going. It's shocking that it sounds easy enough, but it still requires a lot of thinking. So not only do you think about just monthly expenses, electricity bills, or the phone bill, or that mortgage or rent payment, but you also think about one-time expenses, or expenses that occur maybe once or twice a year. So for example, you might pay your real estate taxes twice a year, or you might take that summer vacation once a year, or the children go to summer camp once a year. So think about all these expenses on an annual basis, and then whatever you come up to the total for the year, divide by 12 for the 12 months of the year, and then determine what your monthly expenses are. So it's really important to think about those one-time and irregular expenses. So that is something you can do to prepare yourself. Something else you can do is keep track of your financial paperwork. Just know what is kept where, what are the assets in your, which accounts do you have, what are the investments in those accounts if they're invested, bank accounts, loans, mortgages, credit cards. Make sure you have a very good handle on all those things, and also where all this paperwork is kept, so that you can keep track of what's going on in all those accounts. So I think these are some of the things that you can do to be prepared for that emergency.
Oh, no, go ahead, sorry.
I was just thinking while you were saying that those are the logical things that we should do.
Yes.
But I think that it's to go one step backwards. I think so many women feel that we don't have it. I mean, we don't. I think part of it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the expert. I think that is overwhelming to be able to look at all of these.
Yes.
This in its entirety, because looking at trying to predict or project what is my expenses in terms of some of those other expenses that normally I don't keep in the forefront of my mind, and
right.
Connecting it to these life-changing experiences that are not necessarily positive is something that messes with people's psyche, because they don't want to go there. It's like writing your will or getting your will done. We all know that we need to do it, but we don't really want to do it because it's really putting us in a place that we really don't really want to even focus on.
That's a good point.
So my question to you is, or I maybe, and it's okay, it's because it's a human thing. Any suggestions to help people get over that hurdle?
Yes. I would say if you are overwhelmed by some of these details, try to get help. Get someone who can give you directions and say, okay, we need to get this done. This is the next step, and so on and so forth. There are some fabulous financial advisors out there, and make sure that you seek those fabulous people out. It's very important to develop a connection with your financial advisors. You know, feel comfortable that you're able to trust them, and seek these people out, because they can help you with all those things. They can help you think about things that you haven't thought about, and help you figure out what the next step should be. So, for example, if getting your will done is really important, they can help you connect with that attorney. They can help prompt questions around, okay, what it is that you want to do with this, and even help you fill out some of that initial paperwork to do that. Similarly, going through a divorce, there are certified divorce financial analysts that help you get prepared for a divorce and help you on the financial aspect of your divorce, so that you don't necessarily need to deal with all the nitty-gritties, but you're also very much aware of your situation and what you need to do.
I actually want to kind of get into that topic. You just mentioned divorce, because we were thinking, what is the scenario? You're married for 10 to 15 years, you have children, and then all of a sudden one day your spouse serves you papers. What are some steps, because we're all about providing these steps and tools and resources for women, what are steps that women can do to protect themselves in this scenario?
Yes. So that is extremely important. You were talking about statistics. Long Island University's National Center of Women and Retirement Research did a study and found that on an average, a woman's standard of living drops by 45% after a divorce.
Wow.
And compared to that, an average man's standard of living increases by 50%.
Okay. Are you surprised?
I don't know how, the math works, but this is, I knew about the changes, but I didn't know they were so stark.
Wow.
And just because of this, it's so crucial to get your ducks in a row after a divorce. So some of the things that we recommend our clients do is remove your name from all joint accounts. So unless there is an account that's mandated to be joined in your divorce agreement, remove yourself from all joint accounts, not just checking accounts and investment accounts and such, but loans and credit cards and mortgages. There are so many. You can set yourself up for a future failure by having joint accounts, because you have no control over what your ex is going to do. And your financial future, your credit history and his credit future actually shouldn't be impacted by somebody else's financial misdeeds. So remove your name from all joint accounts. The next thing I would encourage people to do, women to do, is again, create a new budget. Sometimes women think about all the regular monthly bills and so on and so forth. Think about the one-time expenses and create a budget for you on how things will work on a day-to-day basis. Think about what your income is. So your income may be part of it may be your salary, or alimony payments, child support payments. Know very clearly what the income is. And then, of course, on the flip side, know very clearly what the expenses are going to be. And then, even from that, pay your future self first. And when you're saving, that's exactly what you're doing. You're paying your future self first. So, that's extremely crucial. Something else to think about is again building that emergency reserve. Now you're alone, responsible for a lot of things that you haven't been solely responsible for. And having that emergency reserve, God forbid an emergency were to strike, gives you that time to go through whatever you're going through and be prepared to handle the expenses without feeling a lot of stress.
No, Avni, I think these are terrific tips, which everyone can access on discoveraNewFuture.com, I should say. But one thing I would say to build off Faith's point earlier, there's a way to make this not such a sad time. And I think because you're creating a structure for them to build their emergency funds to, like you, as you said, start building a new budget, they can factor in some fun things too. Reward yourself. So if they have a budget and they know they're covering their expenses for the next few months, they can plan a vacation. They can treat themselves. So there's a positive twist. When you have control over your finances, you can have control over your life.
Absolutely. I think vacations and downtime and some sort of personal care part are extremely important parts of a budget. If you've put those in and you allocate cash to it, then you don't have to worry about it. Then you know that the money is there for you to use, and you know that you're taking care of yourself and feeling rewarded for all the effort that you put in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because, as Desiree was saying, putting that fun thing and I just a peace of mind. You know how many people are up at nights can't you think because how am I going to pay this bill or this? How am I going to rob Peter to pay Paul or Jane to pay Joanne, whoever it is? That's strange. One thing when you were talking, Avani, that came to my mind was a quote that my son shared with me the other day. He said, "What are you going to do today that your future self will thank you for?"
Oh,
I thought that was
nice.
so powerful. And it's in that sense, that's what we're saying. What are you going to do today that your future self is going to thank you for in terms of your finances,
Now, there was another question because we were going to just keeping on the tips. I did want to ask, now, what would you recommend to women that are to prepare just in case their spouse passes? So just another major life change because we did want to speak about, what are some of the additional preparation measures if it's similar, to what we've mentioned or if there's any additional for someone in that specific situation.
So something to be prepared for a bad situation or an emergency would be to just make sure you have a good handle on all your financial assets and where all the paperwork is, have a good understanding of, okay, if my spouse were to pass away, can I handle all the bills on my own? Do I even know what the bills are? When you're under stress and you're going through this transition, it helps to have everything right there and know where everything is, so that even if there are people who are helping you while you go through this tough transition, they can very easily get to the things that they need to get to help you move forward. So some of those things. Another thing that we typically don't think about in case of the death of a spouse is just those joint accounts and credit cards. None of these people know that your spouse has passed, and this opens you up to even fraud, because if you don't keep track of what the credit cards are and take your names off, then someone can actually steal that identity and misuse those things. So it's, some of these things are really important to be aware of, be prepared for. And if you have sort of just a mental checklist, you at least know in advance that, God forbid, if something were to happen, you're prepared and you know what you need to do.
Oh, no, sorry.
I just want to say in terms of, even just the cost of burying someone, that's a huge cost, and it just reminds me that I heard of someone the other day who, their loved one passed and they didn't have the money to bury the person.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so other family member, etc., had to chip in. But I think that it's also, again, we don't want to go down that path, but it's reality,
It is.
And so I think when we're talking about this, we also have to talk about budgeting for that also, or just having some funds for
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yeah, and in addition to that, these are risks that are ever present in life, right? Death of someone, your health situation. So as you're going through a divorce or a death of a spouse, unfortunately, there are similar things that come into play. It's very important to protect yourself against those risks. So one of the things that causes a lot of psychological stress is medical insurance.
That was my
And
next question. Believe it or not, risk protection and medical
I'm reading
insurance.
your mind.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing. Good.
So, just medical insurance, it is, if your ex-husband works for a company with 20 or more employees, then they're required to provide you insurance through the group plan.
Okay.
Now, you do have to pay the entire premium, which is
Okay.
much higher than you would pay
Right.
while married, but it's a good opportunity for you to at least figure out whether that group plan makes sense for you, and also have the chance to explore if there is another medical insurance plan out there that might be less expensive, give you the same amount of coverage, and give you that protection you need from unforeseen situations around your health. The other type of insurance that's very important is life insurance.
Yes.
This is both true for the death of a spouse as well as a divorce, because in case of a divorce, if your ex-husband is paying you alimony and child support, and God forbid if something happened to him, you need some kind of a uh, uh, money to fall back on, so that when these payments stop coming, you at least have that life insurance benefit to support you with those
The death benefit.
expenses.
Right.
So
Right.
these are the type of things that are important to think about.
Wow, wow. This has been very, very helpful. I'd like for you to share, in closing, what it does Francis Financial does. Really give us some how you can actually help, because it's obvious that you really know your stuff.
So Francis Financial specializes in working with women going through a transition, such as death of a spouse or a divorce, or like Faith mentioned, an inheritance. So any big changes in your life. Now, whenever there is a change in your life, it creates a lot of uncertainty. It creates some stress around, oh, what's going to happen? And Francis Financial helps women go through that situation and try to take that stress away. Of course, there's a lot of emotional things that everyone goes through, but at least the financial piece we can handle. Now, what we've been working with women over the last more than 13 years, and we have developed a very special process that helps women go through this place from of uncertainty to feeling in control. So we've developed a 5-step process, and we go through the initial step, which is really easy. We talk a lot about what your values are in terms of, what is it that is important to you. We try to understand your thoughts around money, around investing, and not just that, we also want to know what the people that are important to you in your life. What are your hopes, dreams? What are your goals? Who are the people that are advising you? And by getting to know you at that deep level, we're able to show you where you are, where you want to go, and show you how we can help you from in that journey.
Wow.
So it's just, and it's so rewarding working with women that, not only do you impact them, but you impact their whole family, which is just beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think, well, I know this was founded by Stacey Francis, and I just think, the vision that helping women specifically in transition, I think that's a very powerful thing. And I wanted to hopefully share with the viewers, how can they find out more about Francis Financial, or how can they find out about, meeting with you to have, a consultation, or to learn more about what steps do I take if they're afraid to take that first step?
Absolutely. So, of course, we have a website, www.francisfinancial.com. You could Google us. You can even call us. Our phone number is on the website. Contact information is on the website. There is a page there that you can type in your questions, and you can request a meeting with us.
Okay.
Now, we may not be the best fit for everyone, but we promise that we will take you to that next step in finding that best fit,
That's
because
awesome.
that's really important to us. We understand that not everyone can find that connection with us, but we will help you find someone who you can make that connection with.
That's
Okay,
great.
that's awesome. This has been a really great interview, and I really appreciate all the information that you have shared, practical and information that we really have to have us think. Really, where do we what do we would like to do? So again, I really want to thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully one day we'll actually meet in person.
Yes.
So.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure. Your program is amazing, and it gives so much value to women. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be with you.
Thank
you so
Avani.
much. As we, time, I always say, time
Yes.
goes fast when you're having fun. So until next time, think positively. Thank you.